Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network show. My name is Emma Vigeland, and we are here on a Monday in November, and it looks like the Packers are cooked. Oh, and plus, the Astros are the World Series champions. If you're new here, this flagship show is live on the Majority Report YouTube channel, but OT, where we give our best bets and our NFL picks against the spread, our locks, if you will, that happens over on youtube.com/ESVN show, where also parts of the show will be clipped. If you can't catch the whole show, you can check out YouTube clips. It's as easy as anything. So check that out. And also, if you can, rate us 5 stars on podcast platforms and all of that good stuff. Hello, Bradley. How are you feeling today?
Hello.
I had to talk you off a ledge last week about the Jets, and now they just defeated the Buffalo Bills, the best team in the NFL by most people's standards.
You'll notice that I'm not wearing any Jets paraphernalia. That's how you know I mean business.
Well, you're wearing the Knicks, so
Yeah.
It's like, what are you trying to bring some of that mojo over there?
I think when I wore my Jets jersey, I thought it would be more of a novelty that they were winning more convincing games, and now that they are actually 6-3 and actually beat the best team in one of the best teams in the league and the best team in their division, I'm all business now.
Yeah, it's getting too real for you now, so you can't even.
Now
engage.
I can't even celebrate it. Now I just have to acknowledge it.
I'm a bit of the reverse of you. I shouldn't even reveal this, but oversharing is my favorite thing to do. When I first really, really was obsessive about the Giants was the year that they won the Super Bowl the second time. I was still a fan, but when I was a senior in high school, it became like a serious problem. And I used to not let people around me say the word win or lose or winning or losing, like in the lead up to the game as a part of a prediction. Because I was like, you're putting bad energy out there. Either way, I don't like it. Like, you're setting me up for
Winning
failure.
is bad, losing is bad,
right.
Tying is bad.
But on the jersey front, I used to wear a Eli Manning jersey to bed every night before game day. So usually Saturday night. And I still have that thing. It's barely legible, the 10 on one of those, old mesh jerseys. Maybe I'll bring that out.
That seems like more than a little stition.
Yeah, it's a big stition. I was big stitious there, but like at the same time, we all have a little bit of magical thinking here, some more than others, in our brains. But that's just like, a window into some of the more psychotic elements of my brain, for sure.
Well, it's psychotic that I can't acknowledge that my team is good.
Yes, that too. And we will get into that.
I was actually thinking about this when I was like, I must have been kind of like stoned or something. And I was like thinking to myself, I was like, there must be some sort of psychological element or like some sort of like DSM level, diagnosis where I am a fan of sports teams and I'm so tortured by them that when they are good, I don't know how to root for them.
You're protecting yourself from actual, heartbreak.
So
that's what it is. It's not that complicated.
So listening back to some of these episodes, I'm like, why can't I acknowledge that?
Yeah.
Or at least even be happy about it.
Outsource it to your therapist.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that to mine, although I have yet to bring up to her my sports fandom to this degree.
I think it's a failure on my part that I haven't.
Yeah, she'd be like, oh, well, how does that relate to your father?
Yeah, I think... Let's get back to your parents' relationship. I'm like, no. In 2006, Carlos Beltran struck out looking.
Speaking of baseball, look, hey, the Astros, they pulled it off. They were getting booed on the road since the 2017 debacle, and they used that as a underdog story, even though they went through this postseason, I think, with like an 11-2 record or something absurd. They only lost twice.
They were quite inevitable, it seems.
Yeah, and that's just how it felt. And the Phillies were a fun story. And despite the many rivalries that my sports teams have with Philadelphia, top 5, top 3 sports town in this country.
Oh,
in terms of just
Bummer for them though, that they're one of the few. I mean,
Probably
It
the
was
best sports town in this country if we're really thinking about it that hard.
well,
But
I mean, especially given, I mean, the Flyers have struggled a little bit recently, but you take the Eagles, the Sixers, and the Phillies all having moderate or, to significant success in the past 5 years, and it's kind of amazing that the combination of the fan base and the success of the big teams there have all kind of coincided in the last decade. So yeah, I would be hanging my hat and holding my head high if I'm a Phillies fan, honestly, because I don't think I don't even think from the wild card round they necessarily thought that they'd be in the World Series. So I think it was a really, really successful season for them, no matter what. And I think this is only emblematic of what's to come for them, honestly.
yeah, and look, I mean the Astros felt inevitable not just because of how good they've been over the past few decades, but they almost seemed due in and of themselves because they had 5 straight ALCS appearances, and they had not yet, since their cheating scandal, been able to, or the sign stealing, whatever you want to say, been able to kind of bring it home. But the talent is undeniable on both the offensive side of the ball and just the way that they're their pitching lineup is just incredible. So I mean, it was deserved on a talent standpoint.
And it's pretty spectacular because it's also a real testament, all of the obvious, the feelings towards the chicanery that the entire organization committed. It's at this point in time in their franchise, AJ Hinch, the manager that presided over the cheating scandal, is gone. Jeff Lunau, the general manager who presided over the cheating scandal, is gone. And lesser teams that, and not even all of the players too. Carlos Correa's on the Twins, George Springer's on the Blue Jays. They did kind of experience a significant level of overhaul. And also, honestly, when you're a team that not only has gone through something really turbulent and controversial like that, and also relatively amoral and less not super defensible, it's kind of hard to rebound from that just from a cultural level.
Well, you have to come up with a justification for why you have been wronged. I mean,
right.
I feel like the Browns players were doing that in training camp. The world, it's us against the world because everyone's focusing on us because of Deshaun Watson.
You have to exactly. You have to figure out a way essentially to make it fuel, especially when everyone else in the league, to an extent, rightfully so, hates your guts.
The Patriots did that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Patriots
100%.
did that with Deflategate, with everything.
with Brady and Belichick.
They somehow
absolutely.
made themselves into underdogs,
and the Warriors
never being underdogs.
And the Warriors do a similar thing, which I think is I think honestly what a dynasty or a dynastic team, controversy or not, kind of has to employ to justify we need to keep winning, sort of.
Right.
But I got to hand it to them in terms of, Dusty Baker did a great job managing this team. James Click, the guy who replaced Lunau at general manager, kept a lot of their great pieces, but also upgraded at others and found gold in a lot of different places. I mean, Yordan Alvarez is one of the best young hitters in the entire league. Jeremy Pena, the World Series MVP, he's 25 years old, but he made his MLB debut this year. I mean, they not only got real production out of the people they expected to, but they also found really, really important assets to their victory this year. And also, like you said, I mean, 5 straight ALCS pennants and 2 World Series in the last 5 years. I mean, this is a really impressive run for a team where, success at every level is really not guaranteed. Because, I mean, look at the Kansas City Royals. They beat the Mets in the World Series in 2015, and they're one of the absolute worst teams in the league now. It's never ever necessarily divined that once you get there, you'll get there again.
No, not at all. I mean, often you see these things fall apart. There's a hangover element. Just to bring it back to football, we're seeing it with the Rams right now.
100%. Oh, and absolutely, without question. I mean, they just in the same calendar year where they won the Super Bowl, they are probably not making the playoffs this year and lost to a very depleted Bucks team that has not been looking good recently.
And it happened the first time the Bucks won the Super Bowl as well with Gruden, and then
in
the next
03,
year,
yeah.
right. So
no, totally.
I remember that because that's just some of the old history of Gruden that I've been looking into recently, oddly. But yeah.
But as I've been saying the last few weeks, I am genuinely happy for Dusty Baker because he literally by I think about 1,000 games or something like that had the most games managed before winning a World Series. He's 73 years old. The last time he did win a World Series as a player over 40 years ago. And by all accounts, I mean, he's had some really close calls. The Nationals were good when he was manager. He was the manager of the faded, Steve Bartman Cubs
Right.
in the mid 2000s that lost that series. Like, he's been close many times. And by all accounts, he seems to be a very, like, genuinely kind and generous person that is kind of loved by all from where he goes. And fun fact, he canonically apparently invented the high five.
Oh wow.
Apparently as a celebration that, when he was a player, he was just like, yeah, I kind of just like my teammate's hand was out. So I just like grabbed his hand and that like
What?
basically the high five was like created from there.
That's not real.
No, if you look it up, everyone credits Dusty Baker with being a part of
Really?
of like popularizing the high five in sports.
That is really like a way to cement yourself. Everyone in the world has, or everyone in the United States has high fived someone
Absolutely.
at least one time.
So beyond his legendary status as an MLB player and manager, he also is a cultural icon. So congrats to Dusty.
That's incredible. That's more of an accomplishment than the World Series.
No question. Like long after we're all gone, people will be high fiving.
People will still be high fiving.
Our robot descendants will be high fiving each other.
Right. They'll be high fiving each other using our severed hands.
Right,
as their own.
in like an ashen heap of bio waste.
Speaking of ashen heaps of bio waste, New York, on this website
That's
is
a good one.
Is
Segue of the year so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's ranked as, this is stupid. Los Angeles is not a top 5 sports town in the country. If you were to say what the 3 best sports towns in the country are, what would you say? Because I feel like I still would include New York in there just because of the media surrounding sports being so prominent, but clearly to me, Philly and Boston are in the top.
Yeah, I understand Philly not. I mean, excuse me, I understand LA not for. LA's so massive that there are certain teams you can point to where you're like, that's just like not like relevant necessarily.
No, they don't care about anything except the Lakers and the Dodgers.
But I will.
You have to care about 3 teams.
Yeah, but I think the Dodgers, the Lakers. I mean, I guess the Clippers now too, and USC, I would say, are like 4 pretty prominent and notable and kind of iconic team/fan bases.
I guess I don't count the college teams in my mind because
I understand.
Because a college team is inherently regional. Like,
yes, definitely, yeah.
Well, I guess so are sports teams, but or professional teams. I wouldn't leave and yeah.
But I don't know. But I think I wouldn't necessarily say that all sports teams are inherently regional because, for example, there are so many transplant or non-native Lakers fans, for example, or Yankee fans, or Steelers fans, or Cowboys fans, because especially when a lot of people were growing up, you like the Broncos because of John Elway. You like the Steelers because of Jerome Bettis. Like,
and
you
also
like the Cowboys because of Emmitt Smith. Like,
if you were not like in an area with a good team, there was always one team that was on national broadcast
that you could watch
instead of like
anywhere,
right?
The Jets in the '90s. But
so I mean, I guess I would.
But Boston, Philly, New York makes sense to me.
But
also.
Boston, Philly, it's 100% in my opinion.
No, I agree. I agree. And they've also also in terms of team quality too. Across the board,
Boston's
Celtics,
number 1.
Patriots,
The
Bruins.
Celtics are a top 2 NBA franchise of all time in like every category, if not the best. I mean, I still think the Lakers, but
but I mean, throughout history, I mean, Bill Russell, Larry Bird,
yes,
the 08 KG teams, like these teams now, like they
have the metal to back it up. Then you have the Bruins, who have been really good for a long time, have a lot of Stanley Cups as well.
Oh yeah, they're still pretty good.
Then you have the Red Sox.
Yep.
Obviously, they had that nearly century-long drought, but they are always relevant, and they've won the World Series multiple times.
But like the exorcism of that, I think almost leads to like the mythology
and
around
the fervor,
the town,
and then wait, so then, and then the Patriots, of course.
Yeah, and then the Patriots, exactly.
Yeah, who are only tied with the Steelers for, those are the teams that have each won 6 Super Bowls. So,
and New York, it's less about quality of team. I think it's more about level of psychosis per fan base.
Yeah, and that's driven by a media market that is so over the top here in New York, and it's more that way than in Boston, more in LA.
Totally.
Like, that's why I would put them at the 3 spot. Philly, it's just like when you have all 4 in the mix constantly, and I know the Flyers, maybe that's not the case, but with the Eagles being so fun and the Phillies, of course,
and them with also a kind of mythological Super Bowl run, like beating Tom Brady with a backup quarterback, like and the Sixers, and even again, like it's like
and the Sixers,
and the Sixers is also like not. Sometimes it's not even as much like. Of course, they had Chuck at some point, they had Charles Barkley, but I mean this team, like the whole process, like Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid,
but even like an iconic Allen, iconic AI image of him, stepping over
Tyronn Lue.
Yeah, it's so funny too. But Philly, I think, is in the top 3, and then New York. But you want to include somewhere. I think about places like Pittsburgh, but the fact that they don't have an NBA team, I think, really hurts them.
And the Bay Area recently, obviously, has been pretty vibrant. I would say it's come on strong recently because like for a while pre-Shanahan, the Niners were struggling. The Warriors they had fun teams like the Baron Davis Warriors, like those teams, but nothing like Steph's teams.
And the based on just wins, see, this is why wins are not the only category that we're making this determination on, and we've gone on such a tangent here, but I do think it's interesting because Tampa Bay should be a top
Lightning and Bucks, like literally a hockey dynasty, and the most
Rays are fun. I mean, of
course, they've always been good. They've been good for the last 10 years.
I know, and somehow
on a shoestring budget,
right? Every time they just totally have such an eye for talent there. So that odd. And I guess you could put Chicago up there as well because of the Cubs mostly,
and the Bulls in the 90s.
And the Bulls, yeah.
Chicago, I think would be I would say that Chicago would probably grapple with New York in terms of that spot,
that 3rd spot,
because of the Blackhawks success, the Bulls success, the Cubs, and I mean the White Sox won in 05, but they're just not as
Chicago should edge out Philly. That can't be. No.
Yeah, I think it would probably be. I would say Boston, Philly, Chicago. If we were to do 3, if we were to take out one,
you were going to take.
I would take out New York over Chicago. I would take out New York for Chicago. Mostly because of MJ,
New York.
Honestly.
New York has the Yankees. New York has the Knicks,
that's the thing,
which is despite them not having success, is an obsessive fan base.
Oh yeah, and the celebrities, like and the pomp and circumstance surrounding a lot of these teams is as much, I think, a part of the argument as anything else.
Because then Chicago. Is there anything more iconic than Michael Jordan?
That's the thing, though. Like that, yeah, and talking about another exercising of demons is the Cubs too, obviously.
Right.
So it's tough. That's the 3rd spot.
I think I take Philly out. Seriously.
Yeah, I could see that too. I would definitely. Boston to me is the immovable one. Like
yes, Boston's number 1. Yeah. Unfortunately, they're obnoxious as hell, but that's
for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, that was a fun extercise.
Glad we hashed that out.
Yeah, I love little rankings like that. It's how I categorize my mind.
It's the Bill Simmons in me.
With that said, let's get to some actual news. But before that, I cannot believe the Jazz are still on this streak. That's amazing. I can believe the Bucks are still undefeated, but
it's really the Jazz more than anything is like I was reading some previews and listening to some previews for the NBA. I was reading Zach Lowe's columns. One of my favorite NBA podcasts is the Dunker Spot with these to Steve Jones. He's a former a G League coach, and Nekias Duncan, a young basketball writer, and obviously no one was prognosticating that the Jazz might be pretty feisty, pretty in the mix of a lot of these games. They actually just look like a good team, and I don't know how to process that because they are a team that is so transparently tanking.
Yeah.
They fire sold everybody off their team except for Mike Conley from what the structure was of the team before.
But that's the thing about tanking is you can set up a team to be tanking, but if the players decide, this is my life and my career and this is my legacy, and the coach decides the same thing, then you can't. There's no way to implement that unless you're like doing something that's going to get you sued.
And if these players, make a huge leap, and as of now, Lauri Markkanen is making that leap.
I always like Lauri Markkanen, maybe because of my Finnish bias. I always
know he's the Finnish god, the Finnish hoops god.
I look out for fellow Finns. My grandmother was from Finland. She had a thick accent, and so like I've been there to visit my family and stuff. I care for that country, and like you would maybe with Iran, if there was like with why you root for Nazem Kadri.
Yeah, Ahmed Haddadi of the Memphis Grizzlies about 12 years ago did not make the same impact.
Right. And like when I watch hockey, it's like, okay, there's a lot of Finns. Like I love Capo Kakko.
Oh yes, of course. Oh my God, yeah.
Because he's a Ranger and he's second overall pick, and I love him, and he's the man, and he's so sweet and humble. Anyway, this is not a weird thing. He's a little like a little lad. He feels like a little brother.
Yes, he's like a small lad.
He's so sweet. But regardless, like it's rare to see a Finn in basketball. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, so rooting for Lauri Markkanen, and I just root for these kinds of teams that come out of nowhere, especially when it seems like the odds are stacked against them. And Colin Sexton was always a good player. Lauri Markkanen was always a good player.
Oh yeah,
like
I think both of them to a degree were kind of square pegs in a round hole, in the sense that on the Bulls, Lauri was kind of expected to just basically like spot up and not, and also he was never the focal point. I think that was like a hard thing for him to balance, and like it just never seemed as if those teams were able to fully figure out a complete role for him. And then Sexton unfortunately also had some mental health problems, and he needed to take a break from the sport, but that never, like you said, that never diminished the clear just raw talent he had. And also from an intangibles perspective, he is just like one of the most like fierce competitors, and he has been since high school. Like he is just an animal.
I wanted the Knicks to take him. I mean, that was the reason I got to know him in the draft process was because I was hoping that the Knicks would take him, and it seems like to be like I always still thought that he showed sparks when I was able to see him on the Cavs, but now it seems like he has a more defined role that fits what he brings to the floor. And
he's just fearless. Like when in one of the first few games when they played the Nuggets, there were probably 8 or 9 plays where he was just literally calling for ISO against Nikola Jokic, against a 7-foot, 2-time MVP, and being like, I'm going straight down this guy's throat and I'm daring him to stop me.
He came off the bench in that game, I think, too. And he had
crazy.
Yeah, from what I remember reading.
So it's a great story so far. And also, as you said, look at two very divergent paths. A Jazz team that was, by all accounts, looking to tank. Traded Donovan Mitchell, traded Rudy Gobert. Before that, traded Joe Ingles.
Rudy Gobert, who is now in health and safety protocol, goes to show that there's one league that still acknowledges that COVID exists.
Kicks people out for COVID or makes them
has
take
not
time
happened
off.
Yet in the NHL or NFL,
no,
from my understanding.
These guys could all have COVID and we would have no idea.
Yeah.
And but then compare that with the Lakers. The Lakers are 2-7. The Lakers are expressly, explicitly, transparently not supposed to be tanking. They are not built to be bad. The expectations were not for them to be bad, and they are playing terribly. And even with Westbrook coming off the bench, he's looking way better. It's not translating to victories.
No, well, that's the point. Is like we've said this from the start. The Lakers are a collection of players. They are not a team, and you're seeing a contrast into how like teams are constructed versus how players are acquired. And someone wrote in Sam doesn't sweat since the Falklands. Marketing was always expected to spot up effectively on teams with zero space. You see what he's doing now that there's a modern NBA offense surrounding him.
No, that's a great point. It is a great point that basically they're like, oh, he's the tall guy that doesn't have to be in the post. We can basically leave him on the 3-point line and hope that he gets open and makes a 3 or 2.
Right.
Whereas now it's like he can do stuff that's not just that. He can be off ball. He can drive. He can attack a closeout because he's athletic. He's for a guy his size. He's light on his feet. So it's very. I'm super pleased to see him in an environment where he's thriving because I agree. I always thought he had talent. I always thought he would actually, both on the Cavs and the Bulls. I thought he would would deserved, I guess, a little bit more run than he got.
He reminded me of, and maybe it's not just because he's like white, but a little bit like of earlier in his career. I was like, he's a little poor man's Porzingis-y, but he's
Oh yeah.
I mean, Porzingis is playing well, but yeah, that's.
Porzingis, I think, is a little bit potentially more like explosive athleticism, but honestly, like I almost think Laurie might have a little bit more control or like polish on his game.
Seems like
now.
a smarter guy.
Yeah.
Porzingis is an idiot.
Yeah, he kind of seems like a dumbass.
And also a bad person.
Yeah,
in
yes.
my opinion.
No resentment from these Knicks fans over here.
I've heard some inside stories that I will not reveal.
That's for the Patreon.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Eventually, whenever I feel like get around to it. Here, before I do want to say we will be taking calls later. So just letting you guys know, once we take a break, you can call into the phone lines. We'll take like a few minute break and I'll open up the phone lines. But someone wrote in, Irving Gang says, Emma, it's so rare to see progressives cover the Irving issue better than you. You were empathetic but brutally blunt about the impact of his anti-Semitic takes. So what if you unintentionally promoted the book listing on Amazon? This is the same person. Made a quite few dumb and uneducated right-wingers more anti-Semitic. I mean, the thing about like being in the media is when I'm talking about the book that he promoted, sometimes you have to acknowledge the reality. And yes, I pointed out that the book was on Amazon and was gaining getting traction and being sold more and was at bestseller lists. But I just think like reporting on something is not the same as promoting it.
Did you also tell them to buy it?
I did not.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, bizarre. But let's actually touch on that before we get into some of the NFL news. Get that out of the way. Or we can talk actually about Irving at the end of the show. It's not that pressing. LeBron commented on it. We have more.
Yeah, the only real thing I wanted to touch on was the interesting thing about the suspension being that it looks like Shams Charania, who seems to always have like the real inside track to Kyrie's team, and by that I'm sure Kyrie just calls Shams directly.
Super
and Shams
obvious.
serves as his stenographer. Is that it looks as if Joseph Tsai, the owner of the Nets, has kind of given a few stipulations for Kyrie's return, which includes meeting with Jewish leaders.
We'll talk
in the
about
community.
it later.
Yeah, totally. I just mean that's the only thing I want to touch on. Is like there's like more that has come out of the suspension as well as other big NBA players commenting on it.
Right.
So we can definitely talk about
Yeah,
that.
we'll save
when
that
we
for the
watch,
end of the show.
LeBron's
for
remarks,
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the breaking news that I wanted to get to though is that Frank Reich has been fired as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And what's even crazier
is who's replacing him.
is who's replacing him. I mean, I guess I would have been largely ambivalent about Frank Reich being fired. I don't know if I would have done it. I mean, I think that Reich has dealt with a lot of adversity.
3 quarterbacks in 3 years.
Yeah,
after, like,
none
retiring.
of them who have been very good. And he has taken that team to the playoffs, and they almost beat the Bills. People forget in that first round playoff game. And they've made the most with what they've had. So I guess I would have erred on the side of not firing him just from the outside. But it seems like Irsay wants to either tank or like see what they have in the rest of the team. So, but now I err on the side of tanking because they've hired Jeff Saturday, who you all might remember from
former Hall of Fame center for the Colts.
Is he in the Hall of Fame, or he's at least in the Ring of Honor? He might not be eligible for it yet, but he's been a team consultant, and now he's getting hired to replace Frank Reich. And like,
yeah, sorry, he's in the ring. You're right. He's a Colts Ring of Honor member.
Right. He might
Hall
be
of
a
Famer.
Hall of Famer. I don't know. I'd have to like do a deeper dive into that. But I don't understand what consulting he's been doing for the team. I don't understand if that consulting has been connected to the locker room or any way that the coaching staff has conducted itself. It just is odd. He's only coached at a high school level, and then you're replacing a guy who has made the team as competitive as possible, who kind of had a decision about quarterback thrust upon him. It was clear that Ellinger starting was an ownership decision, pairing with what I said earlier, for them to either see if they have something in the guy or tank, and it looks like they're tanking because Ellinger has not had a good first 2 starts to his career, but at the same time, it's Bill Belichick. He eats young quarterbacks like this for breakfast. That's why I picked the Patriots to cover, and they covered substantially. Like Ellinger, he only had 103 yards on the game, 15 completions.
And it's a guy who again, like he was I think he was a 6th-round pick or something in 2020.
Yeah, out of Texas.
He's never before this season. He had never started an NFL game. I guess my thing is, and I'm with you there in the sense of it's kind of a weird decision that this couldn't wait until the end of the season, only because it's not as if a lot of this stuff was necessarily completely expected. Based on how Matt Ryan played for the Falcons last year, I didn't think he was going to necessarily be great. I didn't think he was going to be bad, and by bad I mean benchable bad. Benchable for a guy who's never started an NFL game bad. I also
And not just benchable for a game, like, oh, he's
for
dealing
the
with
rest of the season.
He's dealing with this soreness, and we got to hold him out for a game and see what we've got. No, they benched him for the season, which is clearly an ownership decision.
Totally.
No coach would ever make such a proclamation about a player.
Because it leads, there's so many questions that go along with it. So if Ellinger is bad, you don't put Ryan back in. If Ellinger gets hurt, you don't put him back.
It's with a hard G, right? I keep saying it wrong.
I have no idea.
It's if Ellinger, I think it is a hard G. If Ellinger, because it's the opposite of what I think it should be. If Ellinger is bad, okay, like you don't want to turn back to Ryan
or
have the option. That's a weird choice, and a coach would not be making that decision. So, I just like what this Jeff Saturday thing reminds me of is, or what I initially thought was, the owner of the Texans. What's his name? Cal.
The current owner.
Was that his dad, Cal?
McNair.
Jeff McNair. Yeah. Cal McNair. Cal McNair is the current owner. Yes. So Cal McNair is probably just thrilled that now, yes, this team was the first to hire a white quarterback or a white head coach.
Yeah, former NFL
circumventing the Rooney Rule, which is apparently what you can do with this interim head coach position. Who has no experience, and so I get to hire Josh McCown next year.
Right. It was gonna say he's like gonna see Josh McCown in the pews at my church, and I'm just gonna be like, it's on, man.
Yeah,
we're all good.
Although he did have his snake oil salesman Jack Easterby depart the team recently, so who knows? But
that was interesting to me in terms of the McCown sweepstakes, because I feel like Easterby might have been the connection there. But
by sweepstakes, you mean they're the only person, their team that would ever hire?
I mean him. He will get a head coaching job in one place and one place only.
Yeah,
that's in Houston.
So that to me, this would. If I were a coach moving up the ranks in any organization, particularly in the Colts organization, this would infuriate me.
Yeah, and I think, but it's also just a strange thing because, per like what I was saying with the expectations aspect of it, is like beyond Matt Ryan, they had spent a lot of money on this offensive line. Quentin Nelson being one of the best guards in the league, Matt Pryor, Ryan Kelly. These guys weren't supposed to be this bad.
No.
And when they got injured, they got Bernard Raymond, a rookie, to get some run. He's not looked very good in replacement I think he was at left tackle again. Like a lot of pressure to put on a rookie. Even a few of their good defensive pieces, Kwity Paye, Shaq Leonard, Grover Stewart, like all of this stuff is just not necessarily enough to make up for the big swings that were taken that it did not work out. And I just don't know if I would necessarily put all of that at Frank Reich's feet, especially when he's essentially been operating with little to no roster continuity since Andrew Luck retired.
Yeah. And it's just crazy to me. Gus Bradley's on the staff as the defensive coordinator.
Right.
And you're going with the guy how is Jeff Saturday going to stand up in front of Gus Bradley, who has been a coach in the NFL, a head coach for just decades, and command that room?
And
I
say,
don't
hey,
know, man.
you need to stop running cover 2. Sorry.
Yeah, that is just.
I know you've been running it for 25 years straight, but you do need to stop.
This feels like, again, Jim Irsay just putting his fingers in the pot and stirring and not worrying about the consequences, and like it's just owner privilege to me.
Yeah, and also I don't know what precedent it may set or example it may set if Saturday is like a colossal failure.
Mm-hmm.
Because then the question not only becomes why move on from Reich if this is what the result would be, but also then as well, why move on from Reich and then choose this guy as opposed to someone who at the very least could literally be a placeholder until you have a more extensive search in the offseason.
But that's the thing is who's going to hold Jim Irsay accountable? He owns the team. So he's going to make whatever decisions he wants, even if they're crazy. This would bother me if I were a player or a coach on this team.
Or a Colts fan.
Oh, yeah. Well.
And like, don't get me wrong. I think I loved Saturday as a player. It really has nothing to do with that. It's more just the process than anything else.
Irsay just wants to relive the Peyton Manning days.
I'm sure
so badly.
that's probably part of it as well, right? Like,
hey, Saturday was on that line.
Do you remember?
They're friends.
Do you remember the mic'd up moment between him and Peyton Manning?
I think
Peyton goes, "Hey! Stop calling the fucking plays, okay? It's my job."
Okay.
And Saturday's like, "We need to run the ball, Peyton."
Oh, I actually do remember that because it was rare. Like Peyton did, call out his receivers and call out the line sometimes, but it wasn't what Brady does, which is
just literally.
It was
primal
more Aaron
screaming.
Rodgers, where he is ripping into people, but it's not like hysterical or screaming.
And then at the end of the clip, Tariq Glenn, one of his other linemen, goes to Peyton, go sit down and stop yelling. He goes, I'm not. He was yelling first.
I do. I think I remember that because that was like a part of their Super Bowl run.
Oh yeah. No, they were like that's what's amazing about the clip is like they were playing really well at the time, and he was just getting so pissed.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton Manning, he was like an interesting communicator, but we don't need to relitigate that. Peyton Manning's a dick, but I still will always like him more than Tom Brady.
I just like there is something about the Manning brothers that I find to be like more telegenic than
apparently
I think they should
Eli
be.
is a really nice guy.
But they're like actually funny. Like
oh my god, they're good actors.
I find some of the Manning cast moments funny, and I also find like some of their commercials funny. And I'm like, God, I shouldn't like these like corn-fed, like kind of like.
They're not even corn-fed. They're actually silver spooned. Like
right, because Archie,
growing up,
they kind of have like the aw shucks mentality, even though like you said they are actually like literal football royalty and have been since they were born.
Republican donors, but it's just somehow less annoying than when like Brady's into it or when Aaron Rodgers is an anti-vaxxer.
It's
just because they're charming.
We have exactly. We just have some sort of bias there.
We're suckers. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, I want to just really dedicate a lot of this show to the NFC North because there's a lot interesting happening there. The Lions defeated the Packers and
didn't think we'd be saying that before the weekend.
Aaron Rodgers, I never thought that I'd see the day where he played like this. And to be fair to him, and I will be, I've been saying this and defending him throughout his career because of the lack of weapons that the Packers have provided him, because of their complete fake interest in receivers in free agency and via trade. They pretend, oh, we were in on Darren Waller. Oh, we were in on Chase Claypool. And they say that after the fact. But, like, how many times can you cry wolf and actually not pull the trigger and give one extra asset or a player or a late-round pick to put you over the top? It's just BS. They don't actually want to be in the market for that because their philosophy of draft and develop is incredibly conservative. And I think that Rodgers would have more rings, at least one more, if that was not their philosophy. But at this point, though, even though the receiving room is one of the 3 worst in the NFL, even though they're not just lacking in top talent, they're lacking in depth, Aaron Rodgers is still not playing well. He is not going through his reads in the same way. He's dumping things off. He's throwing interceptions and forcing things into coverage when he is throwing downfield. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions, and they were back-breaking interceptions.
2 in the red zone, 2 in the red zone, and also, like you were saying in terms of his mistakes, he's double clutching, or he's stilting his progression in a way that's like very un-Rodgers like. He's
part of it's he doesn't trust his receivers,
yes.
so we'll give him that. But
in the sense
now
of
he's honestly, I think he's playing politics a little bit with making sure his completion percentage and stuff is up, which I never thought I'd see from him. That's the thing that used to bug me about.
Because again, like as we've said about the perception of him before, he was the gunslinger. Like he was not. He was never this guy to be like, oh, like just so I can remain accurate, just so I won't, I will run the risk less of guys dropping passes or getting picked. I'm just going to throw dink and dunks to Aaron Jones or to
Frankly,
Alan Lazard.
Eli was like that. I was like, who am
Tonyan.
I thinking about? Eli Manning was like this at the later part of his career with the Giants, where
absolutely
like. That's what was so frustrating.
The risk aversion.
Oh yeah, look at the stat line. I mean, I'm the box score fan, and I'm going to say his stat line looks pretty good. No, he's not playing well. And Rodgers, I feel like, is doing that a little bit, although he is still forcing things into coverage. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, top 2 pick in the draft, was able to get an interception off of him in the end zone, which was an amazing play by him and a terrible throw by Rodgers.
Yeah, that was nuts because it looked like Hutchinson was going to go in for the blitz, but then at the last second dropped back and caught it. Yeah, that was an awesome pick.
That was a heads up play by him. He kind of, I think, was reading Rodgers' eyes, if I remember correctly.
And that's a rookie edge rusher doing that to Aaron Rodgers. Like that doesn't happen. So, and also we cannot forget what we were talking about literally last week during OT. This team fired their defensive backs coach last week.
The Lions.
The Lions defense is one of the worst defenses in the league. And if you were to map the amount of points that they've given up over the course of this season, they would be the worst defense potentially of all time in the NFL. And the Packers could not beat this team. That is a real wake-up call to the entire organization.
And they're just not making the playoffs. I mean, this is just what's insane to me. The Giants win in a head-to-head with them.
Yep.
Because
they beat them.
And the Giants are 6-2, and the Packers are 3-5? Or 3-6.
The Seahawks 6 wins.
Yeah, right.
Not going to be able to catch them,
Cowboys,
I don't think.
Yeah, the Packers are 3-6, and they still have to play the Cowboys, and I think the Cowboys are going to beat them, and then they'll also have that tiebreaker.
And the Cowboys are also doing what
they play the Cowboys next week.
The Cowboys are sort of doing what we thought the Packers might do, which is continue to course correct and improve as the season went on, as they got healthier. This is not happening for the Packers.
Oh no, and Romeo Doubs was barely playing any of the snaps. Alan Lazard was the top receiver. He should not be your top receiver.
No, he shouldn't he shouldn't be the top receiver for any team, frankly. Not to say he's a bad player. That's a lot to put on a guy who's kind of limited in terms of his skill set.
So I feel like Aaron Rodgers retires at the end of the season. It's going to be a very unceremonious end to a career that at the end was marred by controversy related to the vaccine and also his leadership style. It makes me sad, frankly, because outside he's my favorite quarterback that I've ever seen play. I love Lamar Jackson right now, but for me, just the level of dominance that Aaron Rodgers had with the little that he had to work with. Just look it up. I mean, for people that want to rewrite history about this, we've never seen anything like it. Never seen a quarterback that accurate with that strong of an arm, that much of a playmaking ability, that touchdown pass to interception ratio. It doesn't happen, and it's a shame to see it go out like this.
I'm just also a little annoyed by we've been talking about this with a little bit of this trend of some of these vet quarterbacks. Some mostly being between Rodgers and Brady, who are frustrated that they're not playing well and taking it out on their team and out on their receivers. Yes, I understand him not trusting his receivers. I understand that the line is a little banged up, and David Bakhtiari is very clearly
that's when the Hutchinson
healthy.
Interception was.
Right.
Was he not trying to throw it to Bakhtiari on some play? But Bakhtiari's not even playing all the snaps on the line. So why are you putting him in as a decoy? It's just stupid play calling.
Yeah, that was absolutely bizarre because Zach Tom was coming in relief of Bakhtiari at some point, and then Bakhtiari came back in to be an eligible receiver and catch a bubble to get into the end zone. I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But for example, the Athletic Football Show covered this specific play. Tanyan was in the end zone, and he got separation, was in the end, and Rodgers double clutched, like kind of screwed up his feet a little bit, and then yelled at Tanyan after the play saying that he didn't get enough separation. It's like Tanyan was not the problem there. You were the problem.
That's amazing to me because, Aaron Rodgers' footwork was also
his calling card,
greatest of all time,
and
it's
almost
why he's
impeccable.
able to just make every throw part of. I mean, and then just the greatest arm of all time.
Right. It just the level of tentativeness with him is so unlike him, and also he's beyond. It would be one thing, I think, if it was clear that it's like he is making the throws. He's going through the routes the right way. He's making the reads. He's getting these balls in the right windows, and none of his receivers are connecting, or none of his receivers are like simpatico with him. But that's not the case. There are technical lapses that are clear when you're watching him play. Yeah. And frankly, this is the first season. He was the MVP of the league last year.
That's what's insane. I mean, the Brady decline, I feel like, he's declining less rapidly, but it's been more gradual. I mean, there's been a significant drop-off this year, but it's like he still has moments like he had in that final drive where, okay, he won that game for them. But with Rodgers, it's like it just gets worse every week somehow.
Yep.
And he's supposed to be Mr. Enlightened. Like, I took ayahuasca, now I see everything as it should be, and he's not seeing shit.
Word to the wise: you want to keep playing football at age 39? Don't date a witch.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that he's dating a witch.
I think if we were to run the analytics, Rodgers, the stats,
on witch girlfriends,
PWG, pre-witch girlfriend numbers and post-witch girlfriend numbers. I think we'd get a pretty accurate story of what we're seeing on the field right now.
Yeah, and we were gonna play this clip, but I don't even think it's that worth it. Like, the Lions, just every time they get a win, and they're few and far between. It's like Dan Campbell's gonna cry.
The fourth win of the last 3 seasons for them. Everyone's just like,
I hope they stay in this thing and but still get a top 5 pick and just take a quarterback, like a really, really good quarterback.
No, and I think honestly, I'm of two minds of it, in the sense that we've talked about how it's hard to only attribute or only give credit for culture when culture and wins don't correspond with one another, in the sense that they have to sort of correspond with one another to kind of matter in a way.
I mean, just because Dan Campbell is fiery doesn't mean that he's just a more likable Joe Judge.
Yes, exactly. Potentially a more likable, someone, I don't remember who said this. I think it was on one of the broadcasts, but that, him and Matt Patricia at this point in their time as Lions coaches have a similar winning percentage. It's not like he's really done a lot of revitalizing in terms of their actual win-loss record. However, my thinking is, like you said, if they are capable to get a low draft pick, better quarterback instead of Goff, you have the infrastructure that they have on offense. You have a healthy St. Brown, DJ Chark, Jameson Williams, who still hasn't played a snap for this team, coming off of injury at some point. And then a defense that very clearly is young, unheralded, and cheap. Mm-hmm. They've barely spent anything on this defense outside of extending Romeo Okwara and Tracy Walker, I believe.
And those are bad moves.
So even if that's almost, you almost justify that by saying they just want to have 2 guys who are over 27 on the roster.
Yeah, right.
And so I wouldn't be too worried about it besides the win-loss numbers, only because this is a really young, inexperienced, inexpensive team that is not even fully healthy with all of the draft capital they accrued with Jameson Williams. And if they are able to get a guy like a C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, any of these kind of exciting quarterbacks in the next draft, and they hit, who's to say what this team could be with an actual difference maker, an actual ceiling raiser at quarterback?
100%. But speaking of the NFC North, we have 2 more big stories out of this weekend, in my opinion.
Oh my God! Yeah, this whole division.
The NFC North, outside of the Packers, the vibes are really good. Even though the Bears lost, the vibes are good for me. here's what the plane looked like when and not just the plane, the interior of the plane, the people within the plane looked like when the Vikings were flying back after their defeat over the Washington Commanders. And I saw also in the locker room, Kirk Cousins had them break the huddle in victory, saying "you like that," which is a nice touch because some of the sparse Commanders fans were chanting "you like that" at him. But it's like, all right, I mean. That was one of the last times that you guys were relevant. So the maybe don't, and as annoying as Kirk Cousins is, he's like he's I think feeling himself in the system for the first time since Kyle Shanahan was his offensive coordinator. And here he is dancing with some chains, swagged out on the team plane on the way home. There's no sound, but here you go. Look at him. I saw a video with sound, but whatever. I mean, you guys can probably picture it. He's just got, what is that, 6 chains on his neck? And most of his teammates must have just come through with like, coming together with all their chains to make Kirk look badass.
I can't remember who it was. It was like it was either like Justin Jefferson or Zadarius Smith or one of the guys on the team who gave them a week or two ago put one of their chains on Kirk, and Kirk was like, I've never been iced out before. He was like, it was really empowering. I kind of understand the appeal now.
Oh.
And it's like, he's definitely like a massive dork, and a massive kind of like cornball, and
also like comes from like a Christian conservative background, and was questioning the vaccine.
Yeah, he's definitely like a weird individual, no question, and all. But at the same time, like sometimes winning cures those issues. They're winning, they're playing good mistake-free football, and at some point, yes. We said this last week and some of the weeks before, expecting the shoe to drop, expecting kind of like them to kind of sort of regress to the mean. But like, if they can win this way and keep doing it, they're basically, any way you slice it, given how they've been playing, they're going to be in the playoffs.
Oh, they're winning the NFC North.
And
that's like not even a question anymore. They have a tough stretch coming up, but they have the Bills coming up, if I'm not mistaken, and Josh Allen's elbow is off.
Right, and he's not fully healthy, and so
elbow, as we've seen with
really,
what's happening with Matthew Stafford, like that made my stomach drop when I heard that news as someone who roots for Josh Allen.
No, it's terrible because you need the cannon.
Yeah,
to be as effective as he wants to be, you need the cannon.
And your elbow on your release, like
it's so crucial. It'll be agonizing, especially it's his throwing elbow too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible. So we'll see, obviously, how healthy he is when they play. But it's nice to see that this team is having fun. That the Mike Zimmer vibes seem to be shedded in the Twin Cities, and that they're playing really well. I love to see Justin Jefferson having success. I love to see guys like Zadarius Smith having success. Like they may not go super far in the playoffs. Who knows? But I think if you said to Vikings fans, Kevin O'Connell, new head coach, Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, that this is where they'd be going into week 10 of the NFL season, I think everyone would be very pleased with this result. So I think it's a really fun story that they're still rolling this far in, and that their week 1 win against the Packers wasn't entirely a fluke.
Yeah, it is. And they just have a really balanced offense. They've been able to run the ball a lot more effectively than they did to start the season.
Oh yeah.
And they just they can beat you on the ground. They can beat you in the air with Justin Jefferson. And now T.J. Hawkinson had a great debut. He's, as I've said, he could be a top 5 tight end in the league.
Totally.
Like, he has that kind of talent, and he's just on the Lions. So hopefully that works out for them, and I'd love to see them get a playoff win, as long as it's not against the Giants.
Yeah, I hear you there, and Dalvin, and honestly, I think Dalvin Cook honestly might be like the X factor here, in the sense of if there gets to be in a big game situation, if pressure is getting to Kirk and it's hard for him to get to find the open guy, or like they're getting blanketed in coverage. if they can sustain a really strong ground game, Dalvin Cook can win them some games.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins had a beautiful throw down the left sideline towards the end of the game that
He's good for like 3 or 4 of those a game, I'd say.
Yeah,
where
but
you
he
know,
was getting
clean
hit.
pocket.
He was getting crushed though on this throw, and it was later in the game. It was how they won. I'm forgetting exactly the complete timeline of that throw, but he can throw a spiral. Like it's a catchable football.
And that's pretty encouraging if he was hit with to get a good ball out, because that's always been the biggest difficulty for him is when the structure collapses, if the pocket collapses, can he still, make the move that he needs to make? And if he can even do that 20% more than he usually does, with the guys they have catching passes now, I think that would put them in a good position. Honestly, play purely with guys that the guys that they have on this roster, just playing sound, mistake-free football. That's a key to winning.
Yeah, and just back to that video of him dancing on the plane. Like, you say he's a cornball, but he knows he's a cornball. That's what's...
No, at least he's self-aware of it. He knows.
Let's contrast that with Russell Wilson,
right,
who thinks he's really cool, but he's actually a cornball. Like, Kirk Cousins is aware.
No, like Kirk is very clear. Like he's shirtless, wearing 7 chains, and they're all like filming him. No, he obviously knows.
He's like, playing into it.
It's a spectacle.
So
yeah, absolutely.
That's how you like Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson. Take note. Kirk Cousins is how you lean into like the I'm a Christian like cornball.
This is what the team plane looks like when your teammates like you and they're not asleep as you do heinies in the aisle.
Right. He's on bye, but we had to mention it.
Sorry, man. Even when you're not playing, you're not safe.
Let's talk about Justin Fields then, because as I said, like the vibes in the NFC North outside of the Packers are really good, and that might seem counterintuitive because the Bears did not win that game against the Dolphins. I do believe they covered, though. I think it was a 3.5-point spread. So I feel a little vindicated in not taking the Dolphins.
No, this game was way closer than I anticipated. And I just want to give a little shout out, if you're watching from the YouTube chat, Robert. He has complained about our Justin Fields coverage every week. And now I just want to say, Robert, this one's for you.
Yeah,
Justin
Robert,
Fields,
what do you I said last week that I thought he was the most impressive thus far of the rookie quarterbacks. And he set with this, or not rookie, second year, he set with this a
Bears franchise
record.
rushing record, 178 yards.
178 yards, yeah.
We're seeing. I think I'm going to say it now. I think we saw glimpses of it week after week, even from the start of the crazy rainy game against the 49ers.
And let me just correct you: it was not a Bears record. It was an NFL record.
Oh, it was an NFL record. Wow, that's even
by a quarterback in a singular regular season game.
Wow, that's even more impressive than I
178 yards.
Yeah,
the record was previously held by none other than Michael Vick, who had 173 against the Vikings in 2002.
That's crazy. So,
all-time rushing record is Colin Kaepernick, who was a total bum and deserved to be cut.
Bust, absolutely.
181 yards in 2013, but that was a playoff.
That was a play. That was that. Oh my god, I remember watching that game.
Yes,
it was freaking amazing.
Yes.
But I will say the with the Bears, like I think he's shown growth both on the ground and with the ball in his hands week after week after week, and I think this was where I could see him really putting it all together.
Mm-hmm.
A beautiful throw to the left half of the end zone.
His arm is nice. Like it's not just like strong athlete arm.
And that was a contested ball.
Yeah.
Like, he threw that and it was a perfect window. And then the 63-yard touchdown on the ground was an unbelievable play.
So fun.
The entire pocket collapses around him and he realizes that he has no options. So he calls his own number and juked through like 9 guys to get into the end zone. Like he given space to work both on the ground and behind center. He's so explosive.
Yeah.
And this is just like exactly what I've wanted to see in terms for him schematically. Just to let his game open up and be ambitious and take these risks as he's good for them. It's clear that he's good for them. And you can do it
when you establish him as a running threat and you're able to like also get your other running backs involved in the game, like Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery. And like once you're able to establish the run like that, it makes things easier on your quarterback. So especially when he's developing and gaining some more confidence in the passing game, like what you look for with these young quarterbacks is, do they do something in an elite way? and his athleticism is elite. It jumps off the screen. Probably the top
100%.
three straight ahead running quarterbacks in the NFL right now are Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, and Daniel Jones. Straight ahead, scrambling. I mean, come on, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are elite.
Oh my gosh. We'll get to it, but that last touchdown was unbelievable.
But anyway, like Bears fans, you might have a guy. You might have a guy.
And I think if the Bears, if Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, can keep this up, can scheme Fields up this way and continue to do so. Chase Claypool now in the mix as a receiver, giving them an actual threat on the outside, giving them an actual plus receiver beyond just, Darnell Mooney, who's decent, but just not a great, big, huge upside guy. Byron Pringle, not a huge upside guy. Cole Kmet, similarly. Put him in positions to succeed. Keep using this playbook, and I think he's really going to keep stepping up and keep improving. I'm very, very, very happy to see him have a game like this. It was really awesome to watch.
Speaking of another second-year quarterback, look who took care of the ball this week. Huh? Look who took care of the ball this week after you were ready to write him off, say it doesn't matter doesn't matter that he's been injured both times in his young NFL career, both seasons, and has been able to find a rhythm. You're ready to write him off after one really bad performance against the New England Patriots.
And the Broncos.
Okay. But they just went and defeated the Bills.
No,
the Jets.
I'm being serious. This is the game where, and I'm being honest, like we were discussing my mental illness before. I'm not kidding. Like the first 8 weeks of the season, I was still hesitant to be like, they're playing well and it's not a fluke. They're actually playing well. They're actually good in a lot of areas. Beating the Bills this way, and I mean this way specifically, because it wasn't as if, for the Jets, it wasn't as if this was a shootout. They won 2017.
Mm-hmm.
But to keep Josh Allen and that Bills offense to 17 points and to come back from down 14-3 against this team where it's quite difficult to regain a lead on, this is the most impressed I've been by this team, and I'm not kidding, like 10 years.
Well, that defense
honestly
flies around. Josh Allen turned the ball over, and we don't know how much that has to do with that elbow injury that he's now dealing with, which is very concerning.
No,
to
it's
me.
definitely concerning, and also I think it might explain some of the rash decision making, some of the quickness in him getting those throws out despite them being kind of vulnerable. Because the end zone pick, though, and I got to give credit where credit is due. A guy I've made a lot of complaints about. Jordan Whitehead, he was there at the right time. He capitalized. It was a throw basically across Allen's body into the shallow end zone. That was kind of whoever I'm not remembering who the receiver was, but it was heavily covered, and Whitehead just in traffic got the ball.
Yeah,
and it was a crucial stop.
And then after that, Josh Allen fumbled on the next drive in the red zone.
And then there was a fumble. So I mean, they were making, the Jets defense was making him uncomfortable almost the whole game, which is absolutely what you need to do when you're playing a team with that much firepower, and when you're playing a team that even on defense rarely gives you an ability to crawl back. And James Robinson, fresh from the Jaguars, first rushing touchdown for this Jets team.
Sauce Gardner, another interception. Another interception.
And the game-sealing pass breakup on Gabe Davis is, you just see not only the skill and the precision he has as a corner, but he was that length to somehow get into Gabe Davis's chest without committing pass interference and throw his hands up to break up the ball between, Davis's chest and his hands. I mean, he is especially as a rookie, he is a masterful corner for how young he is and how inexperienced he is.
Yeah.
There are vets who do not make plays sometimes the way that Sauce has made in this first half of the season.
And he just stands out on the field. I mean, some of this is so simple. If you watch games, it's like the guys that look that look just different from everybody else that you have to pay
Oh,
attention
no question.
to.
And
His arms are so
the arm,
long.
the length
He's
is
so
crazy.
athletic.
The length is crazy.
It's like Frank Ntilikina out there.
Yeah, it's like
I'm joking, but
but
you're wearing
it's
that Knicks shirt, but like that was why we were so enamored with Frank coming out of the draft.
Totally.
was because he had that length.
But sometimes you see some of these guys as an example, like if you to use another cross sport, is like you see a guy like Bull on the Magic, or like any of a bunch of the guys on the Raptors. It's like it's just very clear, like physically he has really undeniable traits.
Yeah.
And to put that together with a really, really high football IQ and a real a tenacity and aggressiveness in man-to-man coverage, he's a special player
and
so
a fit
far.
for that system too.
Absolutely.
Which is like really he's been thus far really durable. He's clearly the defensive rookie of the year if he keeps up even like at 50%.
Definitely. I think if he continues to stay healthy and he continues to play like this, he's had tough matchups throughout, and he's consistently been really competitive in all of them. He had great reps against Mark Andrews week 1. He had great reps against the Bengals and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Great reps against guys like Gabe Davis, and I think he had a few reps against Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
He's played really well, and I'm super. It's kind of an age old I would say team building consideration that getting strong young cornerback play is so valuable to get it, because cornerback, honestly, it's one of, if not maybe the toughest position to learn and play at a high level professionally.
It's really tough. I mean, quarterback is still the toughest.
Oh, certainly. I think because I would say in the sense of on the defensive end, I guess potentially.
Offensive tackle and corner,
right.
Probably, besides quarterback.
Just because the high processing speed, the way you have to see the game and how you have to adjust to different sizes and speeds and different lineups, it's in, like, I find it similar to, like, Patrick Surtain for the Broncos. Just to be able to have that kind of cornerstone, that blue chip guy, it's so immensely valuable to a team going
Those guys
forward.
will be at the top 2 of their position for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I'm still just baffled that the Texans decided to take Derek Stingley Jr. over Sauce Gardner. I never understood at the time. He's played fine. He's played well. But like
he's had a few shining moments, but he's gotten burned a few times as well.
But it's a bad defense. It doesn't matter though. I mean, it was so clear that Sauce Gardner was the best corner in the draft.
No, and
so versatile.
And the issue is even if Stingley's good, if he's not Sauce, I think it's hard. I think it's tough for a Texans organization to see that, thinking, what if we had him instead of Stingley?
Yeah,
what if we had the offensive rookie of the year and not a good
defensive
rookie of the year and a good, as opposed to a good rookie cornerback.
Right. But not Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson Jr. thinking of but Zach Wilson. Look, he didn't even throw for 100 yards, so take that with a grain of salt. But
importantly, he didn't make mistakes.
That's the thing.
And that's the crucial
You know
part.
that he can throw it downfield, right? He has to learn how to manage the game.
That's it. It's almost a similar thing. They're not similar players, but it's a similar thing to what we were talking about with Kirk, is if Zach Wilson can cut back 20 to 30% on some of the mistakes that he makes, if he can have the picks, if he can have some of the errant dropbacks or the errant scrambles when the pocket isn't collapsing, if he can just get the ball out quickly and give it to guys who can make moves in space or make moves after the catch, if he can just hand it off to guys like Michael Carter and James Robinson or Braxton Berrios and kind of design run plays or something like that, if he can check down to scramble for himself to just take the ball, this team will be so much better than they are right now. And they're playing well now.
Are you happy? Are you letting yourself be happy?
Like 45%.
All right.
I'm always ready to be hurt.
Well, don't they play the Patriots again next week?
Well, and that's the problem, is this team
in New England.
This team, a nuclear winter will have taken over, and they will still not be able to beat the Patriots, no matter how hard they try. So if they can beat the Pats, I think that's when I'll really.
That's when you'll come back in with the jersey, or no?
Absolutely.
No, because then it's too serious.
I might need a new one. I still only rock my LaDainian Tomlinson. I might need to invest in a new one.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
maybe get a Quinnen Williams or something like that. Who also, by the way,
really
one of if not the best defensive tackle in the AFC right now.
Woo! I do not agree. I
Who,
think
Chris Jones?
Jeffrey Simmons.
Oh yeah, Simmons is really really good. We can get to that too.
Let's talk about the Sunday Night Football game then, because like I know the Titans didn't win, but I'm just so impressed.
No. This is like, don't get me wrong. Great, this was iron sharpening iron. Like,
yeah.
this was truly like, if Ryan Tannehill was playing, and I hate to say it, listen, it's early. He's not very experienced. They don't have a whole lot of receiving talent after AJ Brown left. Malik Willis looked absolutely terrible last night.
In the second half. No, he looked okay in the first half.
I mean, when it really mattered, when they had to actually just get essentially one completion.
Yeah.
And he was just running around in the backfield, like basically, it looked like he was essentially playing pin the tail on the donkey with 7 Chiefs rushers and just could not get the ball out.
He was like something like 2 for 10 in the second half. The Titans, they covered and then some, and they took the game to overtime, and the Chiefs ended up winning by 3 points. But it was very Belichickian the way that I feel about how Mike Vrabel values players, just looking at their team.
Just monsters
Big
on
people.
monsters
Big
on the
people.
line.
But that's the thing. Like I know the NFL, it's changed in a lot of ways, and things are spread out, and speed matters a lot. And I think at different positions, speed does matter more than size. Like, I would not take a size corner over a speed corner. I would take a speed corner every time. But on that D line and on that O line, you want size. That's how I would want my team constructed. And the Titans are always in every game because of the big people that they have on that line.
And these guys also are not all like blue chip draft picks or anything like that. Mario Edwards Jr. was on the Jags practice squad last year and made his way to the Titans. He was putting Orlando Brown on his ass.
It was
over
insane
and
to watch.
over and over again. Dylan Cole, another guy, I think undrafted out of Missouri State.
Mm-hmm.
David Long Jr., another guy, not a super high draft pick. Danico Autry. Like, these guys are strong, tough, and fast, and were more than willing to essentially eat the Chiefs offensive linemen alive, essentially, while their secondary was flying around the formation, blanketing every receiver to where Mahomes had to scramble.
And that's what's
Mahomes
insane.
had no other choice.
That's what's insane, is because people forget that last year the Titans spent their first round pick on a corner named Caleb Farley. And Farley, he looked like a freak coming out, but he had so many injury concerns, and he has not been playing. So that's a lost pick so far. Same with their offensive lineman Dylan Radins, who they took in that same draft last year in the second round. He hasn't been playing well, and they have been essentially doing this with a lost 2021 top of that draft class. And so the Chiefs could not run the ball at all in this game. I know Edwards-Helaire had a few like clutch runs, including one on 4th and 1, which was a really dicey decision in my opinion by Andy Reid.
I couldn't believe they ran the ball on that play.
It worked out, so no one's going to talk about it.
No, of course, but just even in terms of
it seemed desperate.
Process versus results, it's like, you guys have not been able to get anything going on the run. And when you need a conversion, you're going to go on the ground against, honestly, what's probably the best run defense in the league right now, the Titans' run defense. They are stuffing.
Well, the Patriots' run defense is really amazing too.
No, they're great.
And they
they're
also
great.
can rush the passer. Matt Judon is just playing at an insane level.
And talk similar thing with those guys. They're like that's Belichick's, that's his bread and butter, is finding unheralded amazing Christian Barmore, Devon Godshaw, just like guys out of nowhere who are just now unbelievable run stuffers and pass rushers.
But it is just hard. I like the Titans because I like Mike Vrabel and how he gets that team coached up. And I fell in love with the Giants. Like, I love a good defensive line almost more than anything. It's just such a fun brand of football to watch. But I would be, if if I were Mike Vrabel, pretty annoyed about how this AJ Brown situation was dealt with. I mean, you saw him on draft day. He did not. They had those cameras in the room. I don't know if you remember the footage that they had there, but he was shaking his head when they dealt AJ Brown to the Eagles for a first rounder and Treylon Burks.
Imagine if this team had that pass catching option.
Yeah.
Along with this,
I'm kind of happy for AJ Brown because I think it's a way more dynamic offense that he's a part of. But I don't know what the situation was, or if I feel like John Robinson, the Titans GM, was a little outsmarting himself, seeing that the wide receiver market is getting a little out of hand, and eventually it's going to have to come down to earth. So let's get out ahead of it. But Burks is not AJ Brown. AJ Brown is a top 5 receiver in the NFL,
and he's hurt. Am I wrong?
Yeah, he's been struggling with the offense. He's been in and out, and with injury.
So he's not even a one-to-one comparison, I would say, to begin with in terms of their skill set. He's also not even fully playing.
Right.
So it's an enormous downgrade for a lot of different reasons. And AJ Brown was tweeting during the game, and he was right. Nobody was open.
Yeah, nobody was open.
And listen, I'm kind of critical of Willis in the sense that he wasn't even able to get anything going on the ground at the end of the game.
He's very raw.
But he's so raw, first and foremost, which also I can't blame them for not having him be a third string guy to learn how to be an NFL quarterback and maybe get a guy who's just a little bit more of a serviceable older backup.
I guess, but he does bring. He might not be technically the best quarterback ever with how he's reading the field, but he can change. He can do some stuff that most backup quarterbacks can't do.
I wish they would try. I wish they would do more stuff with him in the Wildcat or something, or jet sweeps or something like that.
He's so strong. He's not even that tall. I looked it up last night. He's 6'1".
No, he's not that tall. He's strong and fast. He kind of runs like Cam Newton used to run. He
looks more like Derrick Henry than Cam Newton to me.
Well, I mean, he has the running, but he has the sturdy build. But I think as much as I thought he didn't seem potentially ready for the moment. Also, nobody was open.
Yeah,
that's the other. There was no.
And he had a great start to the team. He had a great start to. It seemed like they had a really good game plan for him. He had a great start to the game. They were up at halftime, but then they made halftime adjustments and he was unable to adjust. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. And he's just not ready yet, and that's fine. I do think that if Ryan Tannehill were in that game, they would have had a better chance of winning because Tannehill would have been able to be a bit more opportunistic in the pass game. But they have nothing to blame but themselves.
And Tannehill's just an elite game manager, and I mean that as a compliment. Yeah. I mean earnestly, he's just at his best is taking what he can get with play action and just not making mistakes. Yeah.
So I'm impressed with the Titans and how they've come back from just a few shellackings early in the year, totally. Notably to the Bills on Monday Night Football. Was that in week 2? So
yes, I think so. Yeah. Oh yes. That was the 38 or it was
41-7,
I think, or 41-7 or something like that.
Absurd. So,
but. I think in the beginning of the year, I think this was given kind of what we were expecting from the off seasons. Thought maybe the Jags would be taking this leap in.
Maybe someone placed a wager on it, an idiot. They would win the NFC South.
But I think it was understandable even before the season, but also a few weeks in that maybe Doug Peterson had unlocked Trevor Lawrence. Maybe the Christian Kirk found the right situation for him. Things like that. I think we also even thought the Colts might be a little bit, if not potentially much better than they have been at this point in the season, and not kind of a train wreck that they are at this point. But here the Titans are again atop their division. Could very likely win this division and make the playoffs again, when I think we were kind of sleeping on them because they're just not as flashy.
Yeah.
And when what they are is just incredibly well coached, tough as nails, and unwilling to let games not be difficult for their opponent.
And we'll just say this on at the end here before we take a break and get into some calls. Mahomes is incredible. I mean, I know
he's the MVP now. He's the MVP at this point right now, in my opinion. I think he's MVP.
Yeah. More than Josh Allen.
Only because I just think it's not just the wins and it's not just the way they're. I think it's also. I just am thinking about some of these plays. I'm thinking about when he hurdled that guy and just lobbed it to Edwards-Helaire or McKinnon in the end zone a few weeks ago, when I'm like, that's not.
I feel like Josh Allen makes those plays too. I mean, I'm not discounting Mahomes, but
no, he does. I guess I'm saying for me, and it might just also be my perception that I think I'm kind of like internalizing more of some of these like remarkable plays and some of these remarkable finishes. But I also think potentially if Allen's really hurt,
yeah,
that's I think a large consideration too.
They're
still neck and neck, I would say, probably at this point in the season. But I just even think yesterday, I mean, they couldn't get anything going essentially in both on the run and also after the catch. And Mahomes basically was just like, okay, I need to rush this game into existence. I mean, this win into existence, essentially.
People just don't remember sometimes how good he is at scrambling. Like,
it's crazy.
Josh Allen is a better runner, go ahead, but like in terms of making things happen with your feet and making people miss as opposed to plowing through you, Mahomes is really, really sneaky elite at that.
He makes huge guys look like children running after him.
I know. It's insane. Boomer Socialist writes in, Emma and Bradley, could you answer a question? I didn't see last night's game, but I did see Bills-Jets game. Josh Allen is being skewered for his performance while Mahomes is being lionized, but they both scored 17 regulation. Is that just maintaining a narrative? Part of it is the case. I mean, those are the two best quarterbacks in the NFL, bar none.
No, Allen shouldn't be skewered for that. Mahomes also has boneheaded interceptions sometimes.
Yeah,
and ball security issues sometimes. They both do. It's not native to one of them.
Yeah, so I if that is like, I disagree with that narrative being the case. I think that the two of them are in a level of their own. But this is what annoys me sometimes about the media. You have a sports media. You have so much leeway if you've won a championship recently and you've had some success on that front and you have a Super Bowl ring. Like that's literally it.
No, absolutely.
And Josh Allen doesn't. So he gets, and plus, frankly, like I have annoyance with the analytics community and they because they think that you can distill football down to numbers at the expense sometimes of actually watching players and evaluating them. And that's why they hated Josh Allen for so many years. Like people will talk about this year 3 leap, and he did have a massive leap his third year, but that he was terrible in seasons 1 and 2 of his career. He was not terrible in his second season. He just had less to work with, and he was still growing into himself. And I think that the analytics community skewers the narrative against Josh Allen because they wanted to be right about him coming out of college. He didn't have a good completion percentage. And it's a war between the analytics people and the traits people who saw Josh Allen's traits and said, this guy can be elite. And the people who were looking at the numbers and said that he couldn't be.
It's also
and who was right about that? Me and the eye test people.
I do think it's partially scenario based too, because I will say Josh Allen and Sean McDermott and that coaching staff, and I mean Dable is, I think, very much responsible for this as well, molded Josh Allen to be the player that he is now. I think if he was on the Panthers, if he was drafted by the Panthers, or if he was drafted by, let's say the Chargers or something like that. I mean, not the Chargers necessarily. I mean, like with their health staff, things like that. Like, yeah. I think if he was drafted by a lesser team and a lesser development staff, he would have struggled way more. But that has nothing to do with him. Circumstances are very, very important for the development of young players, especially young players who need development when they're raw.
Yeah,
and like I think it's a combination of his elite physical tools, which were clear. I mean, he was playing against bad competition and at Wyoming, but he was also throwing essentially 70-yard passes, perfect spiral to like guys in the back of the end zone. You're like, oh shit, like that's insane. Like, so I think he's kind of a supernova in a lot of ways, but I also think it's not just him. It's also him in the situation that he thrived in as well.
Yeah. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be taking your calls. So I will call into the program in the middle of our break. If you'd like to call, do so. 646-257-3920. Bye-bye. We are back. Boomer Socialist says, great answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. So, all right. Really quickly, calling from a 732 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hello. This is Alex from New Jersey.
Alex from New Jersey.
Hi, Alex.
Hi. We hear our music in the background.
Oh, I took that off.
Thank you.
I don't have much to say. I can't stand sports. It's too hard to call Sam, so I thought I would try to give you a call. And I'd just like to say thanks for doing a great job. And it's the light of my day.
Oh, well, that's so nice. Thank you so much,
Well,
Alex.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you
Alex,
for listening.
watching, whatever you might do.
Yeah.
Okay. Left is best.
Left is best. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. That's just a lovely call. Calling from a 752 area, sorry, not 757 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Emma!
Yeah.
Hey. Okay, sorry, I'm holding my little boy. It's Amir from Richmond.
Amir from Richmond.
You're back, Amir.
How are
Gladly.
ya?
Of course I'm back.
Hello.
Love you guys. I'm holding my toddler right now.
Love you.
What's up, buddy?
I know that this is a sports show, and I was trying to convince my wife she's chopping parsley. We can talk about Brazil sports. Let's talk about the World Cup, baby.
Oh.
Pissed off they let Gabby go out.
She's pissed off that they let Gabby go out. Gabby go is like
Best
a...
player in the world.
Yeah, he's like a Brazilian legend. He's like a Brazilian legend.
All right. Well, I don't know.
Anyway,
Yeah. Go on.
she's okay. Everybody's yelling and screaming.
Yes.
Listen,
Yes.
what did I call in to yell about you guys? I called in to make peace. Oh, I love you. I love you too, buddy. All right. I probably have to. I probably have to get off
Call
the
in next
call.
week. Call in next week.
We'll
all
be
right.
here, Amir.
We'll be here.
Tend to your
All right,
fatherly,
all right.
tend to
I'm
your
sorry.
fatherly and
I love
husbandly
you guys.
duties.
All right, bye.
All right.
See ya.
Bye. All right. Calling from a 512 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 512.
Hey, this is Aaron. Can you hear me?
Hey, Aaron. Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. First time, not that long time.
All right.
Where are you calling
and
from, Aaron?
East Village.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Right
Local.
across the river.
Yeah, right here. I just want to do a little quick rant on the Knicks, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm very happy to do that. I watched their last two games, and they play tonight. They play the Wolves.
Yeah, Sixers
Yep,
game
they
was
play
good.
the
Celtics game was not so good.
I don't even think the Sixers game was good, but
Well, at least they
No,
won.
me
They haven't been able to beat the Sixers in like a year, maybe more.
Yeah, they didn't have the best two players.
That's true.
It just
Right.
feels like we're going through the exact same playbook that happened with Thibodeau last year and then the year before.
mm-hmm.
And it's just really frustrating that it seems that we're going to potentially lose IQ, Obi, and RJ through just bad, stubborn leadership.
Well, we have RJ
and it's
locked
really
up, right? So, but I totally hear your point about the
But
former too.
yes, I couldn't agree more. I think the coaching philosophy, the strategy is stale and stubborn, just like Tom Thibodeau, and also Thibodeau has made it very clear from his tenure on the Bulls and the Wolves that he has a threshold. He can get a team back to relevance and back to prominence. He can't really advance them much farther than that.
Yeah, and so it just feels kind of frustrating to see all of this like young talent we're just kind of sitting in no man's land, not getting any better, not getting any worse, and it sucks. But
yeah, that's the
it's
thing
also
is
been better.
like
Go
what
ahead.
I just can't stand. I don't know about you. Is when the first substitution is Derrick Rose. who, like, it just is crazy to me. One, I was surprised that Grimes started 2 games ago.
Me too.
in
I
the-
was like,
in-
oh
God.
shit.
And he clearly was not ready to be back, right? I'm sure it seems like the coaching staff has a high opinion of him based on the reporting out of the potential Donovan Mitchell trade, but it's like I do not understand what Thibodeau has against Emmanuel Quickly is really my opinion.
It's worse than that. It feels like it's not like Popovich, who's like an old coach. He can adapt. Like Thibodeau is like a Larry Brown who just like is going to force a square peg into a round hole no matter what. But on top of that, it's also the fact that you can predict what he's going to do every single time, and you know who's going to get the quick hook, and you know who's going to have a long leash, and it's just really frustrating.
And if we can
But
predict
that's all
it,
I have to say.
if we can predict it,
Yeah,
what do we think
exactly.
these NBA coaches and players can predict? You know?
It's not really even that
Exactly.
hard. Young guy, quick hook.
Yes,
Vet
right.
stays
Yeah.
in.
If Taj Gibson was still on
Exactly.
this team, it'd be like, Mitchell, we gotta bring you out. Gotta let Taj Gibson get at least 35 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know. I mean, honestly, I'm hoping that maybe after a mediocre year, Dolan's impatience works in our favor and he does let Thibodeau go. But if you recall, the only reason that Tibbs even agreed to come to New York was if he had like a long-term deal.
Right.
Hopefully, money is not an object again for Dolan, who that is the one value of him being an owner, is that he reaches into his pockets. It's the same thing with being a Rangers fan.
Is that he's not cheap, but he's impulsive and petulant, and does not like when people are making fun of him.
Right. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And I feel the same as you. And like, I'll just say anecdotally, like my boyfriend's been a Knicks fan his whole life and a really big one. And he's been like struggling to even let himself get emotionally invested in this team because he says,
yeah.
I know we're not going anywhere with Tibbs as the head coach. And until that changes, it's just really hard to be in this no man's land thing.
Yeah, it's purgatory.
Yeah.
And it's also, if I could, one more thing, it's also just really frustrating to see, there was a lot of like problems we were having negotiating with Danny Ainge over the summer, but it's also now very frustrating to see that he picked a young coach and the Jazz are balling out.
Mm-hmm.
They're so good. They are so well coached and they have like such a young, coach leading the helm. And it's just really frustrating.
And I would argue that the Knicks might have more young talent and more talent generally on their roster than the Jazz roster.
Yeah.
And look at them and look at us. A team, and again, it's not as if I don't think the Knicks are actively tanking.
No.
As we were saying before with the Jazz seem to be, and look at how they're performing. I think that's definitely a situation. I've had many a situation with the Knicks where I'm like, why can't we have that guy? Why can't we have that coach? Why can't we do that? Like instead we have Tom Thibodeau, wanting to play Julius Randle for the whole game. But anyways,
Appreciate the call.
good existence for us Knicks fans.
All right.
Huh?
Bye now.
Thanks.
All
Aaron.
right, bye now. All right, we'll take one more call and then we will get out of here. A little bit of a shorter show today. We have midterm coverage tomorrow. We will be
Our second late night.
we will be up till 1 a.m. It's
Yeah, folks.
I would guess. So
Tune in.
plus doing 2 shows. One,
Yes.
our normal majority
Normal
report
show.
show, and then the other one being from 7 to the wee hours of the morning. So forgive us, but we have a long week of work. Plus, as I mentioned on the main show, I am moving, and I'm moving next week.
Lots going on.
It's causing me a lot of stress. But I'm on this like November move cycle now with my leases, right? Like, and now they just hiked our rent up to some ridiculous amount. So we had to move again. And I moved just a year ago, and it the 2 years before that too. It coincided with the midterms, and it's just like, oh god, okay.
You're like the Colts with their quarterback.
Yeah, right,
no-
right. Just going year to year.
No continuity.
Exactly. All right, this is the final call of the day. Calling from a 630 area code 630. Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Ryan from Elk Grove.
Ryan, what do you have to say today?
Well, I'll keep it brief because midterms you're moving out.
Yeah, I know you're
first,
gonna keep it
18-month lease.
I know.
Monthly, so I'll get
But then I
you
get
out of this November cycle.
But you don't understand. Then I get on the summer cycle, and in here in New York, the rent is the highest ever from May to September. So.
Oh, well. Solution to that, and here's what I did, is 1, get cancer, 2, sue Monsanto, 3, fall ass backwards into Monsanto bucks.
Oh, well, congratulations on that for you.
Yes. So, anyways, Bears, vibe check, good. Defense, bad. Refs, poop from a butt.
Oh.
Absolute poop from a butt.
But is Justin Fields still poop from a butt?
No, he's a 10 out of 10 certified smoke show hottie. Would do.
There we
we know that. We know.
Given to me by the wife and child.
Yeah, we'll try to incorporate Justin Fields into your bedroom.
We need to get some of these drops. We need to get some sound drops, Ryan.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye. All right, with that, the voicemail is off. We are going to read a few IMs and then get out of here. Tom Lofink, happy Fun Day Monday. Sorry to hear about your apartment situation, Emma. It's that time of the year for men's end of year rugby international games. On Sunday, my team Wales lost 23-55 at home against New Zealand. Not totally unexpected given New Zealand's notorious talent in rugby. I'm sorry to hear that, but maybe at some point, Tom, you can call in and give us a rugby update.
Yes, please.
Chris, too. Having lived there, Chicago is a better sports town than any of the three you mentioned, lack of success notwithstanding. I think I bumped out Philly in the end and Bradley bumped out New York for Chicago, so your argument won in the end.
That's right.
Brandon from Kentucky, Jordan Clarkson is underrated on the Jazz, though. That's true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and he's a holdover. He has been playing really well, honestly.
Yeah.
Always been a good scorer, just not a great defender.
Fierce Deity. This is the most Mike Francesca-esque ESVN segment ever. It's fantastic. I'm wondering what that was.
She might have been
probably when I'm looking something up.
Or the sports city rankings.
We should do more of those.
Michael, I think Chicago's the #1 sports city.
Emma's bookie. The Suns locker room supposedly had COVID running through it during the playoffs last year, or maybe they put that out there to excuse the collapse. Yeah, that was true for sure. Sam doesn't sweat since the Falklands. Washington Wizards is one of the most dog shit rosters at press time. I assume this is in response to me saying that Porzingis sucks and is an asshole.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot. They don't have that many exciting young guys. They have some middling old guys, and
that's why the Bradley Beal extension made no sense. Yeah. Even though I like Bradley Beal.
No, I love him. I honestly, I respect the loyalty. It's just tough because
I know it's just marriage needs to end.
Yeah, I would love to see him on. I would love to see him on a great team. I'd love to see him on the Clippers,
right,
or on the Heat, or something like that.
Right, for sure. Jordan B. Peterson, Michael B. Jordan Peterson says, "Congrats on the cancer, Emma Vigeland."
No, congrats on the settlement.
J-Man raps. I was happy for Dusty. Also, my man Pascal Siakam got hurt on Sunday. He was having an MVP season.
Yeah, he's been playing so well. I wish him a speedy recovery. One of my low-key favorite NBA teams to watch is the Raptors. They're one of those teams that just system is sound. They play, banshee-like defense. They're all have arms down to their ankles, and they just play really hard. Love Siakam, so hope he's better soon.
And the final, I'll do two more actually. Devilfish. Jim Irsay is a trust fund baby with substance abuse issues. He's terrible. Take a look at the Colts executive staff and count the number of Irsays. The team lucked out getting Manning and squandered his prime years with bad coaches. Yeah. They 100%. I mean, that's how I feel about Aaron Rodgers to a degree. Could have had more.
Gosh.
Yeah. It's and Peyton Manning won that final ring when he was the worst quarterback starting in football. He just could not throw at all, and that defense on Denver carried him.
Just
also fell off a cliff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. After Peyton retired, yeah, it was. Was it after Peyton?
No. Peyton fell off a cliff, and that
Oh
final year
yes.
with
Oh my God,
Denver,
yeah, absolutely.
he was like injured, but not really. Remember, that's when
No, the whole team carried him against because that was the
that's
Panthers.
when Brock Osweiler came in, and they were having more
right.
success with him on the offensive
Oh
side
my God,
of the ball.
right. Yeah, this feels like a lifetime ago, but I remember. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Wild.
But I never thought I'd see that kind of drop off from Aaron Rodgers, and just because he was always a more athletic quarterback and a more talented quarterback.
Age always gets you.
I mean, you agree that Aaron Rodgers is a more talented quarterback than Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah, I also just because Peyton Manning couldn't do a lot of the out of structure on the runs, on the fly stuff that Aaron Rodgers could do.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning wasn't making crazy throws off 1 foot. He just wasn't.
But he was an assassin.
Well,
with everything available to him.
In the pocket, absolutely, with his footwork,
Yes.
and also just standing like a statue in the pocket. Rodgers didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
Rodgers can do all of it and some.
Still love
I agree.
Peyton in his prime.
Oh yeah, the best. So much fun to watch.
Yeah.
The Colt, those peak Colts teams with
100%.
Marvin Harrison and all that.
Antifa Lockhart, the Chicago Bears of Arlington Heights, 8 to be celebrated. Even in defeat, we learned. Justin, okay, this was just the call that. No, wait, maybe not. We have so many Bears fans.
Antifa Lockhart won't let me forget that I said that the Bears were in Arlington Heights and not in Chicago proper.
Sorry, that's what this is. Even in defeat, we learned that A, Justin Fields is a certified 10 out of 10 smoke show. That's agreed. But he is also NFL caliber. C, they exposed the Dolphins as frauds looking at you refs. D, they lost the game, keeping that pick high. There we go. And the final I am of the day. Number 1 pick says Broncos gonna snag Reich. WTF? That's actually a really good prediction.
That's an absolutely interesting proposition that I did not consider.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Should we say who we want for M&F tonight?
Oh, well, I've already made it clear. I mean,
oh, that's right. Oh, yes. Okay.
That's one of my best bets. Bradley had 2 pushes over the weekend in an unbelievable stroke of, frankly, luck. Because that's better than 2 losses.
Just as I drew it up.
So he's gone. Still has not lost in 3 weeks. A bet. He's pushed twice. I lost the damn Packers one, but I did win the Patriots one. So I will have 1 win on Bradley if the Ravens cover tonight. Win by at least a field goal. So I'm sticking with my initial prediction. I'm picking 24-20 Ravens. I do think it will be close, but that they'll cover 24-20.
And it's Ravens Saints?
In New Orleans. Nah, stop it.
27-23 Saints.
Okay, cool. Putting the jinx on me. All right, bye guys. We will see you on Thursday for ESVN OT, and you will see the results of this weekend. Our full slate on Thursday. We will break it down. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Enjoy the game.